Aloha, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. My name is Sprinklebeard, and today we're going to be doing Evaluate the Epic on Imani, the Wandering Flame Prophet. Imani is going to be a champion I'm going to have a hard time reviewing. The big reason is I don't have enough experience with her, and then kind of like Soleil, I do feel like the kit does contradict itself a little bit, so we're going to see... we're going to have a lot of conjecture in this video. In this series, I do try to highlight the champion in the best light, not point out the cons, unless the cons are something that are going to greatly affect your gameplay with the champion. So like for Selkath, I did call out that his animations are very slow, so like there's times that he's dropping damage. I don't really feel like she has like major cons to her, but I definitely think that newer players, this is going to be a very interesting champion to see how effectively you can use her. So there's definitely some very high skill expression in this champion. So let's start off with the stats. Stat-wise, we do have some good stats for her. HP is right on par. Attack is actually slightly higher than most of our epics. For epic mages, it's around 3,500. So we're a little bit above the mark there. Her cost is 18, which is like right on par. Attack interval is 2.6, and then rage regen is 14. So no talent available, and that is perfectly fine. She's part of the Infernal faction, and there will be a little side note I'll make later on in the video of good importance for that. But for the most part, she is a single target, not for the most part, she is a single target mage, and she is designed to do a lot of single target nonsense. So let's look at her kit. Her basic attack is deals 100% magic damage to one enemy, increases the attack by 20% for 10 seconds upon the first hit. I haven't fully gotten the understanding of this. I have been toying around with her and trying to see when I am noticing it. I have not found out what I think the pattern is for this yet. It doesn't seem like the first hit on every enemy gives her this attack boost, but it does seem like she gets an attack boost for 10 seconds, and then other things happen, and then she gets an attack boost again later. I haven't fully determined what I think or how I think this skill works. But yes, really cool, right? 100% damage, scaling up to 110, and then giving her an attack boost is always an amazing thing. She is one of my favorite passives in the game, but this is where I say that she's very skill expressive. She is Elegy of Fire. So, when deployed, increases her attack by 10%, her crit rate by 15%, and her crit damage by 20% for 20 seconds. What's a little strange about this is that on her base attack, if she attacks something and she was to gain a 20% boost, you are losing the 10% boost from here, because of the way buffs work in this game. Whatever your highest buff is going to take priority over your other buffs. So you can't stack increased damage effects from like her and Laurel together to get some like really obscene damage. No, just the highest one takes place. So if Laurel gave you a 20%, it would instantly override this Elegy of Fire. And in this case, I do think that her basic attack, giving that 20% damage boost, would override it. Now, I do think you would still maintain the crit rate boost plus 15% and the crit damage boost plus 20% for 20 seconds. As we can see, as we upgrade this skill, it does match that 20%, so then there is no conflict. We can get the crit rate up from 15% up to a total of 25%. The crit damage from 20% to 30%, and then the duration from 20 seconds to 25 seconds. I absolutely love this as a passive. Now, admittedly, this then means that you want to summon her out and then unsummon her, which typically for our mages, that's not something we want. And then as I go through her kit later, we're going to see some contradictory concepts, which makes me... I have a very hard mental time deciding how I feel about Imani. I've seen videos of people using her to great success, But it's strange to me because they're not able to take advantage of things like this that would give her a whole lot of extra damage. But likewise, like if you unsummon her, you're losing that damage. And then likewise, if she was to die and you're like, cool, I can take advantage of it, I'll re-summon her back out, you're still having a lot of downtime. And I'm sure that there's going to be reasons where that downtime can be useful. But where I'm at it in the game, we want as little downtime as possible. For her, I feel like she has a lot of downtime. Ultimate is Holy Fire. So it's a 1300, which is one of the longest ults to get to into the game. So it's not the highest, but it is up there for sure. Entering Overloaded increases her attack speed by 140, which is amazing, and damage dealt by 240% for 20 seconds. When Overloaded ends, instead, you're going to decrease her attack speed by 30, and you're going to increase your damage dealt by 30% for 15 seconds. Now, in terms of skilling this up, as we put enough skill dust into this, we do get it from a 1300 down to an 1100. It is still way up there in the rage department. So understand, it's going to feel like this takes a very long time for you to get to a lot of the time. As we also do these skill ups, we do increase our initial rage from 800 to 1000. So our very first ultimate, we will get there very quickly, which is fantastic with that Elegy of Fire passive. Next, we also get attack speed increases plus 20, damage increases plus 20, and effect duration plus 5. And then on her final one, it is plus 40, and plus 5 again. So in total, we're adding an additional 60 attack. So instead of 140 attack speed increase, we're going up to 200. Instead of the damage increase being 240, we're going up to 300%. And then instead of the duration being 20 seconds, we go up to 30 seconds. So whole lot of damage buffs going on there. And what's nice is that the decreases we get after the fact, they stay static. Like they don't scale up with this huge damage increase. But yeah, understand that we get a 300% damage increase and then just a minus 30% damage increase after the fact. So not really a huge deal for her. We're going to go into her awakenings before we kind of talk about everything else. So her first awakening, which I would consider the most important, you do not enter a weakening state after the Holy Fire effect ends. This is absolutely massive, right? So the whole weakness of her ultimate, if you awaken her just once, you get rid of the giant drawback that she has. I don't know how I feel about that though, right? Like in terms of game design, I would love it, but I would love it if every champion had this flaw. There's so many champions where their A1 is just like a huge damage boost onto their thing, or their passive isn't only when they're summoned, right? It's like, every 30 seconds their passive happens. So for hers, just to remove a weakness in her kit, I do love it. And there's a whole bunch of champions in the game that do have this design element. What I'm frustrated about is that not all champions have this design element of having a very blatant weakness in their kit, and then through awakening, they remove it. So champions like her and then like Crake. I know a lot of people ask me to review Crake, or Crack, however you want to pronounce it. He has a giant design flaw in him, and I love it. I think it makes him a really, really amazingly designed champion. But equally, you have to awaken him to like 5 to remove his misfire chance. So I do love this. It makes her super great. I'm just a little sad that it doesn't add to her kit. It just removes the weakness, right? Let's not beat a dead horse, I suppose. So Awakening 2, extra crit damage. This is amazing. This is basically majority of champions like our damage dealers. We're going to have at a high crit rate. So 10%, this is kind of like a 10% damage boost. Awakening 3, revival time minus 25 seconds. When I first read this, I was like, oh, thank goodness. Now we can use that Elegy of Fire more efficiently. But you're still talking about your champion being out of the fight for 35 seconds. And I don't know how I feel about that. Now, you can stack this with things like Volca. Volca's A1 has a revival time reduction, so you can stack those together so that you're getting a whole lot out of her. But the concept is still that you would summon her out, then unsummon her, then resummon her back in. There is a reason to do that. I just don't know if this specific one makes enough sense. And then when we get down to her A5, it kind of contradicts the A3. And I don't know how to feel about that. So all damage plus 8%, absolutely amazing, right? We have a single target champion that is doing a lot of damage. When she's first summoned, she's doing extra damage, so I absolutely love this. But so now, after attacking the same target 6 times, increases the next attack's damage by 100%. Now, I love this as an A5 because it sounds amazing. The reason I said that this kind of contradicts her A3 and kind of like almost her passive. Yes, when you summon her and she's using her passive, she will get around 6 attacks even if you have 0 attack speed investment, right? Because this lasts for 20 seconds. So you are guaranteed to get that 6th hit off and do some very impressive damage. What's weird to me, though, is that, the longer she's out, the more damage she would be doing, because every 6th attack, she would be doing more damage. But if you're unspawning her, unspawning, wow. If you are despawning her, so that you get this advantage of the crit rate, like the attack, crit rate, and crit damage, which I would argue that these numbers are good enough that it warrants the retreat. You're missing out on that 6th hit constantly. And if you don't time it out properly, if you're not counting her attack, I could absolutely see you dropping a whole lot of damage. Like, imagine if you unsummoned her at 5. 5 stacks, and like she's about to swing her 6th attack and you retreat her too early. That's why I say this champion is definitely one of the more skill-expressive champions in the game. Do I feel like you have to use this Elegy of Fire? Not necessarily, right? You could forego it. 30% extra crit damage, it's meaningful, but it's not game-breaking by any means. The extra 10% attack, like I said, I was noticing this magic attack was constantly re-proccing her damage increase. So it's difficult for me to say. I would think, though, that with your awakenings, you're kind of losing your awakening 3 by not unsummoning her and resummoning her. But I kind of like the awakening 5 a lot more than I like awakening 3. But there are certainly levels that I can recommend where we can take advantage of everything in her kit. So let's move on to that, where we talk about where she is best used at. A little side note before I move on. So Pyros is the lord for the Infernals. Imani has a very gimmicky thing for her. So when you use her ultimate, it increases her damage dealt by 240%. Now, when you use Pyros' ultimate, all other Infernal damage dealers, so not the healers, they will all go into a stance, like a channeling stance, where they stop attacking for the duration of this channel. And then halfway through it, they all fire a bolt, and then they're allowed to go attacking again, and then they get extra penetration, either magic penetration or physical damage penetration. Imani, because of hers reading the way that it does, that she just increases her damage and her attack speed, makes her one of the best synergies for Pyros for this reason. It lets her do some really obscene damage, even though you're not attacking during it. But there's also the argument of, well, I don't want her doing that channel. Is there a way to stop it? No. Right? Like, if you're using Pyros, no. The moment you click Pyros' ultimate, everybody joins in. Even if you summon in somebody a little late, they will often join in on the channel because of the channel duration time. That being said, you can do some really cool combo that way. And then again, Imani just has a whole lot of damage built into her kit. Alright, so where is she best used at? she's a single target mage, so ideally we want her for things like bosses or anything that has a lot of HP. So if we're talking about the arena, single target DPS, she's going to be amazing. You potentially could use her in sustained. I don't know if I would encourage that, but definitely not AoE, definitely not flyers. In the campaign, pretty much anywhere where we need a mage, her damage should be high enough that you can eliminate bulky boys very quickly. And you won't necessarily need an AoE mage. That being said, though, be careful that if you're getting swarmed, make sure that you have a tank to hold things up so Imani can go to town. Or if you also want to think of it this way, you would need a tank so that Imani can get off her 6th shot reliably. What is great about Imani, though, you could absolutely summon her in to respond to something, have her kill things for that first 20 seconds, and then unsummon her so that you get back some of that cost. And you could move her around a battlefield depending on how you need. A lot of us players, including myself, kind of getting stuck into the mindset of once I place a champion down, I don't ever want to move them again. And there's going to be instances where that is not true, that moving your champion around could be a big advantage. And with her having a reduced death timer, if you were to awaken her early, you could move her around and definitely have a lot of fun with her. Void Rift. Void Rift has a lot of enemies that are very weak to magic, so she's going to feel absolutely amazing here. Especially some of the really large demons. I actually have them in my demon soldiers. These big old boys. I don't know what you want to call these, like stone golems. These iron golems, I guess, might be the better way. But these guys are very slow moving and they are weak, much weaker on their magic side. So she is going to be somebody good for doing a whole lot of damage to them. Do I think that she can out damage them? Not necessarily, but it is a thing of note that when you need some big magic damage, she's going to be somebody that's going to feel good that you could summon her in response to where these guys are and have her blow them up pretty reliably. Raid time. Where is she good in the raids? So marksman, not ideal. Mages, absolutely amazing. Especially on that bottom path where there's a lot less enemies. This means that even if you don't have her awakened, even the downtime in her damage when she's like doing less, right? She has that overheated and then, you know, the relaxation period afterwards. You could still be doing plenty of damage to those targets down there. Endurance, perfectly fine. In melee attack, perfectly fine as long as you have a platform. Once you lose the platform's not the best. Because she's single target, I would be careful about using her in the melee attack one. Guild Boss, absolutely phenomenal here because you're either having that 100% uptime on damage, or even if the Guild Boss does kill Imani, the fact that you can potentially summon her back out sooner, and she gets a bonus for being resummoned. So there is this gimmicky strategy with Dragon that if he does his giant inhale and you do not feel like you can break it in time, you could time out your champions and unsummon them, and then you summon in somebody with an unyielding, as it's called in this game. So Decimus is a rare in this category where just for 6 seconds he cannot die. Ironically enough too, I don't know if everybody else has this experience, but Alora with her stealth mechanic, the clan boss doesn't hit her. It's really strange, and I don't think it's intended, but I think the clan boss has to target your champions, so invisible champions just don't get hit by certain things, like that giant breath attack. But yes, her damage for things like Guild Boss are going to be amazing. This is going to be one of the best places for her to shine over everywhere else. In the Artifact Material raid, she'll do well as long as you have a platform for her. And again, her doing her big burst amount of damage could help you burst down the boss before he summons out all of his minions, so that you have to deal with a lot less of them, or especially the bigger minions that he summons, like the ones that fuse together. They used to be slimes, but I know that they've recently changed like undead creatures. And to be honest with you, I haven't let the battle go on long enough to see what those things are. I usually just burst down the boss reliably. In Tide, I don't love her in Tide at all. She might be okay because you are doing enough damage, but you're never going to take advantage of that Elegy of Fire. And then even when you ult, you're at most picking off one thing at a time. And Tide, it's just too many numbers. So I don't think that she's going to perform very well here. Resource raids we'll come back to because I am going to showcase her off in the resource raid. In gear raids, in gear raid 1, everything here is weak to magic, so she is a good option for you to bring for damage. However, kind of like Tide, it is swarms of enemies, so I don't think that she's best here. However, if you can get her to the point where she is one-shotting things or like two-shotting things, you know, the faster you kill things, the faster your other damage, like other AoE goes into the right places, or your other damage dealers can do damage. So definitely do not ignore her in Gear Raid 1. But she's not really designed for Gear Raid 1. Gear Raid 2, there is a lot of concepts about you summoning and unsummoning in Gear Raid 2. So Immani has very high potential here, and if you get her damage up high enough where you can summon her out, she can kill everything off, and then you can unsummon her. With her reduced death timer, you're actually taking full advantage of her kit in Gear Raid 2, and I'm wondering if that was the design philosophy when they were building her. When I read through her kit the very first time, I was like, she's such a weird champion. And now that I've played a lot more Gear Raid 2, I'm like, she's pretty much near perfect for Gear Raid 2. If she could attack 2 enemies, she would be flawless for Gear Raid 2. Gear Raid 3 is all flying enemies, so she's not going to be best here because everything resists magic. In the faction trials, in the basic trial, she will feel absolutely great. In the basic trial, you are, pardon me, you are fighting tons of things that are weak to magic. We also have an incentive to summoning up mages, so she will feel good here, especially if you have her attacking the boss. You could summon her out. She's doing her maximum amount of damage once she's first summoned. If the boss does his Scream of Lineage and kills off your Immani, doesn't matter. You can just re-summon her back out in short order. In Trials of the Infernal, if I was paying more attention to what I was doing today, I would have left one open to show her off in the Trial of the Infernal. I think she's okay here. There is a lot of enemies that are weak to magic. However, I have her at a very low level, so right now she is not performing well enough. However, in the showcase I'm about to do with her, I want to stress she's like level 5. In our resource raids, typically we don't really need single target in our resource raids unless we're talking about those larger HP pool champions. So that would mean that we would want Immani back towards our crystal as a guard. So whatever does slip through, she's going to one-shot or do a whole lot of big burst damage too. But we are going to show her off here. So for reference, my Immani is level 4. I have no artifact equipped to her in this video. I do have her at max skill dust though. And that's because I was prepping to use her in my guild boss team. And then I got a different champion instead, and it messed up my arrangement of where I want champions. And now I don't know what to do with Immani. Ironically enough, I did end up pulling a whole bunch of Immanis, and then I think we gave her Awakening Stone to put her at max Awakening 5. So, this is the power of Immani. I kind of have her in a humble gear set. What I mean by this is her gear set is good enough that she will do damage, but it's not my best of best gear. So I'm going to have her summoned way up here. And here you can see she gets that damage boost from attacking. And she's doing very respectable 1800 damages here and there. And as long as her attack speed is decent, she can just go around one-shotting these. And this isn't the highest difficulty level. But sometimes we're seeing that these fireballs that she throws, she is hitting the same target, or she's attacking a dead target twice. So attack speed is kind of a weird thing for her to take full advantage of.
Blessings or curses.
So her ultimate is she slams down her staff and then she throws these giant fireballs. And there's a good example of her attacking dead targets. And we had the same problem with Cellcath. I don't know if it's something either with the animation or the programming of the champion. but it's something that I don't necessarily love, and it seems to be frequently happening on the older champions. I haven't noticed this at all on newer champions. I'm waiting to see if the attack boost shows up again. There it is. So she sometimes, on her first attack, can regain that attack boost, and I have not determined what it is. If it's her first attack in between ultimates, that's how it feels at the moment. But I'm not crystal clear on what exactly constitutes as her first attack. If it's the first attack against the same enemy, if it's the first attack against crap, I haven't promoted. If it's her first attack in between ultimate, I don't know. I really don't know. But here's the gear that she was in this video so that you can see how much she was able to take advantage of these stats. So her base stat right now is at 982 because she's level 4 and just fully promoted. But with, 3,000 attack, or I guess this is a total of 4,000 attack, she was able to be putting out 14,000 damage pretty reliably. So she is a very, very good damage dealer. And that also just speaks to how powerful crit damage amplification is. But ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be it for Imani. I hope that you enjoyed this video. It's a very, very interesting video for me where I'm not sure how I feel about Imani yet, because she's proving she puts out really big numbers. But to be honest with you, I feel like her kit, like Soleil, kind of contradicts itself a little too much. But it's a really interesting kit that I want to mess around with more. And especially like in Guild Boss, I want to know if there is a way that you can use her in a way that you could constantly unsummon her and resummon her and have great effects with it. It's just a very, very odd mechanic that I want to take advantage of. But ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for today. If you liked this video and found it helpful, go ahead and hit that like button or the subscribe button, because it helps me a whole lot. If you want to join us over at twitch.tv/sprinklebeard, I stream every day, Sunday through Wednesday, very reliably. And then once overtime at my work kicks back up, my stream schedule will go down. So probably after the holidays, Christmas and New Year's are coming up, I will probably be streaming a whole lot less. We'll see how things go. Again, thank you very much for watching, but of course, until that next time, ta-ta.